Hello, it's Blue Orange 22. So I'm sure by now my flyers have arrived and been thrown out at the White House. But I was thinking about my day out in Miami with International Men's Day. And I was thinking about some of the other field reports I got from some other people who went out and handed out flyers, and how we got mostly positive or indifferent responses. I got mostly indifferent responses. And I realized, as the title of this video, we are winning because we are now borderline mainstream, if not mainstream. But I almost wonder if we're starting to get almost boring, almost lame. Like the men's rights movement 5 years ago, and definitely like 7 or 8 years ago, it was seen as a very edgy, if not dangerous thing. Like people would be suspicious of you. You know, people would wonder if you were a terrorist or if you were a misogynist or you were a Nazi. And if you've watched my channel over the last 3 years, I've brought these articles up many times in the past. But even the difference between when I would cover an article from, let's say, 2017 or 2018, 2021 feels different than those years in terms of being openly an MRA. And it definitely feels like the tide is changing and that we are kind of starting to win. But I almost kind of miss having that edge a little bit. You know, it was almost something kind of punk rock about, you know, going through London at midnight and doing stuff like that, which you shouldn't do, which is bad. But it definitely is changing. We definitely are becoming more mainstream. And if you're just getting in the men's rights movement now and you think it's hopeless, believe me when I tell you, it is so much better than it was 5 years ago. So much better than it was 5 years ago. And here's why I actually think the men's rights movement might emerge to be a major political force. I want to say especially in the United States, but maybe not especially in the United States, is kind of how diverse it is and how civil it is. Because in my men's rights server, for example, we have people who believe in socialism, people who believe in capitalism, Republicans, Democrats. We have people who support intersectionality. We have people who are anti-intersectionality. We really kind of have a mix of all different races, religions, nationalities, LGBTQ. I mean, we really are very, very diverse. And you can imagine it does get heated at times. I mean, you can imagine, of course it does. But we all come back together. And the men's rights movement, for some reason, as a community, does a very, very good job of felicitating moderate and civil unity and discussion. More so than almost any community I can remember seeing. So I guess that's kind of my thoughts for the morning. I do think that if you're one of the people who went out on Men's Day and you handed out flyers, or if you go to the weekly talks, or if you post on the subreddit, or if you just talk about it with your friends and family, it is people like you who are making these changes happen. People like you are changing things and you are making a difference. So anyway, keep it up. Let me just add, to kind of prove my point a little bit that things are swinging in our direction. If you're kind of new to the men's rights movement and you're not sure, the difference that I notice in day-to-day interactions, I no longer feel uncomfortable telling potential coworkers, potential Tinder dates, openly that I'm a men's rights activist and sharing my channel. 5 years ago, if I did that, I would expect to either be cut off or canceled or fired or distanced from or exiled. You know, you become immediately excommunicado. Today, it's not like that. And maybe part of it is the difference that I'm not in Los Angeles anymore. But just in general, on the internet, just around social media, it's definitely more acceptable to be openly MRA. And you will still get some of those critics. You will still get some of those people who don't like you. You will still get some of the people looking at you suspiciously. And while the media is doing their best to try and keep the men's rights, keep us down, so to speak, I think a lot of the sudden new attention on incels is kind of a desperate Hail Mary. They see the men's rights movement is growing. They see that we're not getting smaller. They see that people are beginning to realize the truth and that we're not lying to them and that we're not crazy misogynists. And I think now they're trying to, what do we do now? Let's call them incels. It feels very desperate to me. And you'll notice that they mostly try and ignore us as much as possible I will point out, Sam Cedar, it's been like 5 months now, 6 months now, still hasn't had a second conversation that he did say on air more than once that he wanted to have. So, things are definitely changing. And I've been in this for more than a decade. And I've had thousands of interactions over the decade on various online or in-person platforms. And I absolutely guarantee you, we are definitely trending upwards. So we'll see what happens in the next 5 years. I honestly think that the 2020s will be a very good decade for this kind of conversation.